right, guys, welcome back to the podcast. Good morning. It's good morning to us. We are here up on the mountain, as you could probably see. We got the coffee brewing right here. It's just about ready. We got my brother Alex here, and obviously Spencer.
What's up, guys?
Yeah, we're just gonna kind of be talking about like creativity and that creativity mindset today. Just because Alex is in architecture school and he's kind of had to go face to face with that creative side. The creative side of things. So, tell us kind of, just your background with getting into school and things like that, how long you've been in it, stuff like that.
Yeah, so I'm currently in undergrad architecture school up at the University of Utah. I've been there about 2 years now. I had to do some work prior to getting into the program, so that's kind of why there was an extra year added on there. But all in all, I've got about 4 years of schooling total with an associate's degree, and then moving on, I've got about a year left of an undergrad, and then I'll jump immediately right into a master's degree. So total, it's going to be about 6-7 years that I'm looking at. So it's been a journey, but
yeah, man, that's a long time.
Yeah, it is.
You think, how has your expectations been so far going into it? Are you still as hyped as you were when you went in?
That's a difficult question.
Is it hard?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's very,
tough.
very hard. It's very work intensive. And I think to answer that question, it is what I expected in terms of workload, other than the digital side of it that I think I still kind of struggle with a little bit. That was something I wasn't fully prepared for going in, and I wasn't expecting. All the Adobe Illustrator and just all the Adobe, suite that I expected to be a part of it, but not as intensely as it is.
Right.
So I had a good background with like AutoCAD and Revit and things like that, building design and stuff. But the design side of it with the Adobe stuff is where I'm still kind of learning and struggling. But it is what it is.
So I guess getting into this podcast, we're talking about creativity, creative minds, that factor of being in a position where, you feel like you continually have to create new, better, innovative, stuff instead of just copy paste. Tell us a little bit about what is that like in architecture school? Like, how have you been affected with that? And just kind of how have you been affected by that recurrent force to be creative?
Well, there's always the push to try to do something new. Mm-hmm. And that's not just with architecture, that goes with any medium. Especially in photography and videography.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's tough to do. Try to find something new, especially something in today's world that is being done so often, so regularly. Mm-hmm. Trying to find an innovative way to do something is pretty crazy and difficult.
Yeah.
So in the architecture world, it's no different. You'll constantly find someone that, in a presentation or something, when you're presenting an idea on a project that you've been doing, there's always someone that'll try to up that they'll see that, they'll try and implement it into their next project, and then that's kind of setting the bar for everyone else, and
Gotcha.
Trying to ultimately just do the same thing but better, whether it be a different format of your presentation board, or a different exploded axonometric of your building, different ways to. It's difficult, but it's like you kind of build off of what someone else has already done.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like stealing like an artist type of thing.
There you go.
So the professor, let's say you're given a project, right? So mm-hmm. you have the project guidelines and everything like that. Mm-hmm. They're obviously giving you those guidelines, but as far as coming up with, let's say you need to design this area or this survey,
site,
this site or something. As far as making that mini model of that, are there requirements for that? Is that the creative side that you struggle with? Is that, coming up with what material to use for that? If you're given these guidelines, but not all of the guidelines, and you have to come up with how you want to design that little mm-hmm. model, Is that the hardest part? Is that like one of the things that's difficult?
Yeah, I mean, they set the professor obviously sets kind of the standards and the requirements for the project and like what the end goal is and what your kind of like what the final presentation is meant to be and what your presentation board is meant to have on it and things like that. And so that kind of drives where you need to go with a certain angle of the building that you think would be most ideal or look the most aesthetically pleasing. And then they tell you like the scale that it needs to be at, and that also kind of implements different ideas on how what, like you said, what materials you want to do it out of, or like what size of part of like what your base wants to be or it needs to be, or what what you want to even build the thing out of, So, but it's not all just about the model. There's a lot of people think that architecture school is just you build a crap ton of models and then you present them in front of a jury. That's part of it, yeah, but it's not. I'd say that's probably about 25% of the whole thing.
Wow.
So from what I'm hearing, it's like when there's a project, you kind of get the guidelines for the project, and you kind of have to stay within the boundaries, but within that you find your creative, like, I want to make this piece look like this or made out of this, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think those restrictions or boundaries are ever impeding your creativity, or do you think that it kind of helps you kind of guide you in the right direction?
A little bit of both. The boundaries they're necessary. Yeah. Because the boundaries tell you what you have to do within for that project. You have to, like, it's hard to explain how to like define this, but the boundaries, like your limits and your site limitations, is what we like to call them, because in the real world that's what they would be. Is like you've got a certain setback, or you've got zoning regulations that you have to follow, or things like that. Those are things that help guide your design and guide that creativity. So they are necessary, but there's also times where it's like you kind of have to find the loophole in those boundaries or those requirements to be creative and do something different. And I think that's what's very important. And like I said, not just in architecture, but in any medium, any creative medium. Yeah. So having those boundaries set, like for example, with you guys doing, I know you guys just did a video for a client or whatever. I'm sure that there were things that they said that they wanted, but within those boundaries, you guys had to find some way to be creative and do something different that no one else has done, or maybe do something that someone else has done, but just do it better. Yeah. So those boundaries are necessary, but break out of them when necessary.
I like how you said, like, you got to find that loophole, right? Yeah. Like, you have those boundaries, but you really got to find that loophole and like kind of jump through that to get that creative side that you want to put into it. That's like the most important thing, because if there was no creativity in anything, it'd just be everyone's copying each other.
Yeah, if they were given such strict guidelines, or like there was just the one way to do it.
Right. And I mean, what's the point of that? Like, that's just boring. So I think the world that we live in, like, would be very boring if that was the case. Sure. But, having that creative mindset in all platforms, whether it's architecture school or photography or whatever it is, like, there's that loophole for sure that you need to figure out and, like, kind of almost stick to, when people start to get like their styles and they kind of stick to the one thing. If someone likes to shoot just black and white, right, they'll just stick with that because that's what they like. That's their creative style. They know how to mimic, or they know how to manipulate it. They know how to make it look so good, So that's definitely important.
Yeah,
it's interesting that we've kind of flowed into that that topic too of like, breaking out of those boundaries and things, because Peter McKinnon, a famous YouTuber, he's kind of going through that right now. He's been posting a lot of videos about doing film versus digital. And he's saying that he got so comfortable. Like, everybody knows who Peter McKinnon is when he does the digital stuff. Yeah. His photos, like, are, who that was him that took that picture at Banff National Park or something like that, or that video, or that juicy B-roll, as he says, But him switching over to a film is like, he compared, like, it's super different for him. It's super difficult for him, and he's struggling with it because there's so much more learning that's involved with it. Yeah, and totally the back end process, the editing and all that. So,
I heard a clip, I think probably from one of those videos you're mentioning, but it was like him talking about, we know we can shoot 8K, we know we can shoot 4K, but then he holds up this like retro camera and he's like,
you don't know
what we
that.
don't know.
Exactly.
Like, this excites me, and that is cool. It's like they have so much technology and so much like Adobe that you're using right now to do your CAD drawings and all this stuff, all these features, that it's like when you go back to the basics, that's where like you can get extremely creative, both with like, I speaking from like an architectural standpoint here, but like both with like the design of the house, but then if you're talking like hand-drawn plans and that sort of stuff, going back to like the roots, you can get like like your style can become so creative, and that's really cool.
I think it's like it digs into like people start to find like a talent too, when you start to become creative with sticking with the architecture side, I guess, like you start to become talented with, if you can go back to those roots and like draw up, pencil and paper, a full floor plan or whatever it is, that's talent, because there's programs out there nowadays that obviously probably just do that,
exactly,
right? And you barely have to do anything. So the fact that you can go in and like put talent into it and, your own creative side and everything like that, I think that's very important and that's very special. Thank you, sir.
Sir.
Steamy. Yeah, no, that's definitely, it's a skill that is being lost, at least in the architecture world.
You think that's because of the implementation of technology?
100%. There's so many people, especially like I see it all the time in school. It's like these kids are geniuses. And I'm a little bit older in my cohort, so I say kids, I mean like me 20-year-olds that are basically done with their degrees already and whatnot. But they have the digital genius and skill and ability to laser cut something or plot something out the right way, or scaling and things like that, and that's great because that's the way the world's moving. But when it comes to like actually, like you said, hand drawing something, I see some of their drawings and I'm like, what in the world is that? That's a really crappy floor plan, or
it's a nice
this space won't work here with that. Yeah, exactly. So that it's just something that's slowly being lost, day after day. And it's a little sad because I grew up in a drawing environment. Like I know Keaton can vouch for me. Like I grew up drawing, and that's it's just sad to watch. But if you can keep that drawing ability throughout or bring it into your firm, in an architecture firm or whatever, or an artistic firm, that's very.
They know, they see that, and I think that's a big thing, is if you're looking for a job or whatever it is, like, and you could show them, things that you've done by hand or on your own time, that's, employers like to see that, I'm sure.
I'm kind of glad we got on this topic of like hard work and employers and like noticing ability, because I was listening to, do you guys know who Nick Bear is?
No.
Sounds familiar.
He runs like Bear Performance Nutrition. It's like a supplement company. Big, like.
Wait, how do you spell it?
Bare.
Oh,
anyway, super fit dude, crazy fitness challenges. Like, he has his own podcast. He's got like, the business is doing absolutely insane. But on one of his podcasts, he was talking about that same thing of like hard work. And, he gets so many DMs per day of like, oh, I want to come work at BPN. It looks so great, so fun. He's like, it's not that hard to find good talent.
Yeah.
Literally, like, people will just like submit an application or send a DM nowadays, and it's like there's so much of that. It's so flushed and so like just it's so easy to stand out nowadays if you just put in a little bit of effort and like go face to face, especially nowadays. I feel like, just because
it's also a lost art.
It's a lost art. Yeah. Nobody calls, it's all text, email is even going out pretty much. You pretty much email the same way you text nowadays with abbreviations and all that. Like, I grew up, emails were professional, and like, you want to make sure it looks good. You got your signature on there.
Yep.
And now it's like, hey, thanks, appreciate it.
I think some people still like hold that, like, I guess older people, like even older than us. Not that we're like crazy old. Sorry, I made that sound like we're like in our 40s.
Oh man, yeah, those youngsters these days.
No, I meant like, like our parents. Like I know my dad is like that such formal person.
Yeah, my dad is too.
He's just like, I mean, anytime anyone ticks him off or whatever, he is sending a letter, and it is the most formal, like, to whom it may concern.
That reminds me like Parks and Rec with Ron Swanson. He's like, to Canada.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I agree. It's a lost art, but then again, like, I feel like the world is adapting to the technology and the, you know, the innovations and things that are coming out. Like, it's just.
Well, that's like, you listen to Gary Vee too. He talks a lot about that. Is like, a lot of people want to shield their kids from technology because, you know, it does kind of ruin a creative mind sometimes, and it can really impact your self-esteem and all these issues that come with social media, technology, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But his big thing is, that's the world that we're going into.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to succeed and you want to kind of like be in the now and be relevant, like, you have to adapt. You have to like know what's going on, be able to do it, be able to, you know, just be involved, I guess. You know?
I think a lot of people mistake technology as well to be like just digital technology.
Yeah.
There's so many kinds of technology that are innovative. I mean, blocks could be innovative, or not innovative, it could be technology. These tripods, you know, these rocks, whatever, could be a different type of technology that you use to create something. So I would like argue that it's not just, you're right, don't be scared of technology. I agree with that. But don't think that technology is only digital and electronic.
Yeah.
You know?
That's a good point.
Yeah, it's like, I was like playing around on my camera the other day, because like this is a decently new camera, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like playing around, and like there's there's things called picture styles. I think that's what they're called, and it's like filters essentially.
Yeah.
And there's this black and white filter with like grain on it. And freak, I am going around taking pictures, and it looks like I'm shooting film.
Yeah, right.
Like, you know, so that like almost destroys that creative side. If I were to go pick up a film camera, can I make it look just as good as like I could on a digital?
Well, that too is like, now you're getting on that topic of your camera's doing that automatically now, right?
Yeah.
That takes out the people who grew up in the editing phase of like, let's take a photo and go edit it
Exactly.
like
The
that.
Ansel Adams type of.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's rough.
No, I think that's, like you said, the world's changing. The world's you know, you have to adapt to these things, and it's a kind of a very capitalistic world that we live in, because, you know, technology is growing. Electronic technology is growing so quickly that, you know, those abilities and those features are available on a camera that, you know, kind of take, like you said, take away that creativity. But I don't know. It's something you got to kind of just accept, whether you use it or not.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly.
So,
like, I've been hesitant to use like the generative AI from Adobe.
Yeah.
You know, where you can just like highlight a section of the photo and be like, add a mountain.
Yeah.
And now you have like a $10 million.
Exactly.
I mean, I gotta say though, like,
Whatever.
it's so impressive.
Oh, it is, but
It's crazy.
I've been hesitant because
You're gonna lose that, like.
yeah, like you look at photographers nowadays, and it's not even photographers. I wouldn't even, half of them wouldn't call them photographers. I call them editors.
Yeah.
If that.
True.
Or just like generative fillers.
Yeah.
You know?
That's good.
well, it's funny that we bring up AI too, because, you know, also a new type of technology that's, you know, blown up over the last couple of months. It feels like, you know.
Yeah.
You know, bringing it back to architecture as well. They're starting to implement architecture. Like, I just did a project for a side job for an architect that used to work with me, actually. But he wanted me to design a site plan for this project up north, and they're basically cabins that he's wanting to kind of propose to the city and say, hey, this would look really nice in this area. And he sent me 2 pictures of what these cabins could look like, and I thought he's going to be like, oh yeah, these are like renderings of these cabins that, you know, I created. I basically constructed these digitally, and this is what they are. And he sent me, he's like, yeah, these are generated by AI, and this is what they look like. And I pulled them up, and I'm like, holy crap. Like,
So is that kind of like, am I understanding this correctly? I think that like, that's the design process now, is like, hey, AI, show me a innovative photo of a cabin.
I think
And
it's
people are going
inspiration.
off of that?
I think
You
it's
that's what-
inspiration. Yeah, it's not.
Nice, okay.
I wouldn't say it's.
It's not the end all be all.
I mean, I guess it could be part of the design process. I mean, the design process is different for everyone, right?
That's true.
So, but with, you know, I've seen multiple videos of people using AI to get not necessarily the final product for a client, whether that be in architecture or other
Right.
medium, but just for fun and like just to kind of get that inspiration. So it's helpful in that sense. I think it should be used as like a Pinterest type of thing, like
Right.
a Pinterest board that you find images on, and then you compile those images together, and then it becomes something that you can potentially build off of, you
Yeah.
know, rather than just generate a house and
Right.
there it is, Like
like
I would
it.
never show that to a client.
Exactly.
Never in a million years would I do that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. It's AI is great, but at the same time, kind of also a hindrance.
I don't know if I'd say it's great, but I would say it's just more impressive. Like great is saying like it's good, it gets me out of doing the work, it's things like that. Whereas I just see it as like it'll design me a building or whatever, like, but I'm putting in no work to do
Right.
to get what I want out
It's
of
like
it.
there's jobs now that are like, I can generate AI prompts for you to get what you want.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
People are doing that with resumes. People are doing it's
Yeah.
all over the place.
Yeah.
And, don't lie on your resume by
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
If you're gonna use AI, double check that.
Yeah, double
Yeah.
check that one. Say you're a heart surgeon and you're really like not.
Yeah.
So
So talking about like that, how AI can be a part of that creativity process or that inspiration process. Have you what is your inspiration process? Like, say you're in a lull, or you're on your 5th project of the month or whatever it is, and you're trying to analyze that kind of, what do I do next? How you doing? And that's a cute dog. Totally got off track there.
is that the same guy that was running up the?
I don't know.
I don't think so.
I don't think
No?
so.
Okay.
Could be.
Got the same backpack.
True.
Anyway,
So I guess if you're ever in a lull, I guess, what gets you out of that? What gets you motivated again? What gets you back on that creative grind?
I wouldn't say that there's one thing specifically that does that for me.
Do you have anything have you been in that position before where you've had to
Yeah.
I've known
what's
he's
gotten
been
you out
in
of
that
it?
position because I've literally helped
complained
him
about
with
it.
stuff.
There you go.
I've helped him with projects for school and stuff.
Yeah. No, he
Well,
definitely
that's good.
has.
So Keaton gets you out.
Yeah.
Just
That's the only thing.
I am the inspiration.
Yeah, he is. No, from like a model building standpoint, for sure. Yeah, you definitely have helped me out with that.
That's awesome.
Because I'm good at the drawing side of it
Yeah.
and the design side of it. I'm not good at the build it
Well,
side
I think
of it.
too, that just brings up that whole support side, having your support system,
Yeah.
especially in a lull.
Yeah.
That's so
sure.
that's so important.
My wife, Keaton,
Yeah.
even his wife, it's
Yeah, it's awesome.
Family. But anyway, to get back to the question though, there's not one specific thing that does that for me. It's I use things like Pinterest to kind of cultivate images that I think would fit the project really well, or a different color scheme for a presentation board, or a different template for a presentation board, or for a Revit file or something. But I think getting out and architecture is an art.
Yeah.
Whether people agree with that or not,
Oh
it
no,
is.
it's 100%.
Yeah.
For sure.
It is an art, and just like any artist, it's like you're going to run into those lulls and those down times where you're trying to come up with an idea or a spec of an idea to start something. It's it's going to happen eventually. You're going to get burnt out. It's going to be there. But I think that getting outside, stepping away from the desk, stepping away from the computer, sketchbook, whatever, getting outside and kind of resetting is a huge thing.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about resets.
Yeah.
I watched this video of this guy, not to cut you off.
No, you're good.
But he was talking about how many showers he takes a day. He's like, I'll take 7 to 8 showers a day. And it's not to get clean. I'm clean when I wake up,
Yeah.
right?
But that's his thing
It's
spot,
a hard
right?
reset.
Yeah.
It's I get in the shower,
Yeah.
reset, change my clothes, and I'm back on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that I 100% agree with that.
Yeah.
It's funny. I was watching with my daughter. I was watching. You ever seen the movie Big Hero 6
Heard of it.
with
I've heard of
Baymax?
it. I haven't seen it.
No. Okay. Well.
Not a big
Anyway,
movie
it's
buff.
a kind of design oriented Disney show.
Okay.
At least I think it's Disney. And the kid runs into this similar situation where he's just he's trying to create. So he's an inventor, and so he's trying to create something for this presentation that he has, and his brother comes in and he's got the wads of paper by the trash can. He's gone through so many ideas, and he's just frustrated, and he's stupid brain type of thing, and his brother says like it picks him up by his ankles and like holds him over his shoulder like upside down. And he's like, look at it from a different angle. And that's how he ended up finding the idea that ultimately became the plot and entire story. But it's things like that. It's not just one thing. It's like you have to find a way in that moment to change your way of thinking. And whether that be takes 6, 7, 8, 10, 12 showers a day, so be it, like that, doing that reset or getting out in nature like we are, or getting out of the studio, or, playing with blocks. Like that's always helped me. I'll play with my daughter's blocks all the time because it's like it helps spatially, figure things out for me. So, or help me figure things out. So anyway, it's not just one thing. It's multiple.
Yeah. And it's different for everyone too.
Yeah. Is there someone, I know that there's movies and things, that you can physically go and do, take showers or whatever it is to like get that reset. When you're looking for like that inspiration, or if you're like so blank on what to do this next project on, or like how to design it or do it, whatever it is there like someone that you like a famous person or a coworker or someone that you like turn to like ask for advice, or like
like a mentor almost?
A mentor, something like that, a professor, I don't know, it could be anyone, but like is there someone that you even in the past like have turned to and are like, yo, like I'm struggling here, like give me some ideas, I'm just
directly and indirectly, there's different people. I obviously have inspiration, from guys like Peter McKinnon and Casey Neistat, and there's, a couple of architecture guys that I follow as well that are huge inspirations for me that kind of help spark creativity and help me get out of the like funk that I'm in.
Yeah, for sure.
To figure something out, but that's the indirect part of it. Those people are obviously the inspiration that helped me kind of do that. But then there's, I have in architecture, you have to do like internship hours.
Okay.
And in order for those internship hours to be accepted, you have to have a mentor that is a licensed architect that is able to sign off on those hours. And there's like 3,700 some odd hours that you have to accumulate over X amount of time.
Yeah.
But so my mentor is pretty. I work with him, and he's pretty good at like kind of keeping me on the right track with those things. And I'll ask for help or his thoughts on a process or on a project in school. And so that I would say him probably. Yeah. Even though I only see him at work.
Yeah.
I don't really text him.
It helps.
Yeah. Family as well, obviously, is a big motivator. My wife's really great when it comes to the creative side. She kind of brags a lot that she does a lot of the projects for me.
There you go.
And what's sad is that the cohort likes her projects more.
There you go.
I've ran into that a couple of times, which is a little demoralizing, but family, I would say.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So
I would say like I kind of face the same thing with like programming and stuff. Like when I'm given a project or whatever, there's so many different ways you can do. Like I know I have the guidelines and I know the functionality needs to work this way, but it's like it can be done so many different ways, and there is like a good right way to do it. Taking into account just everything, and so I'll be struggling with like trying to figure out like what's this next line look like of code. Like what do I need to have, and I try to like break it up a little bit, but like I try to say like, okay, what do I need to have done in this section here, or whatever it is, and I'll just be like, I can't think of it, like I'm just blank. I'm just dead. And
so what do you do in that moment?
I don't know, usually like I'll usually get up and like kind of just take a break, because staring at a computer screen is just like for 8 hours a day, every day.
It takes a toll.
Yeah. And so I'll usually get up, I'll, go take my dogs out or something, just kind of like get some air. And that's like the most typical answer. I understand that, but like it seriously helps.
Yeah.
And I hope people understand that. It's like just stepping away for a second and like taking a breath and realizing, and then I'll go sit down and be like, how did I not think of this? And it'll like come to me. You know?
Exactly.
It's such a cliche answer though, too.
For sure.
Just to get up and get out of what you're doing. But it's like honestly the truth, as sad as that is. But no, I fully agree that that's like the main thing that you probably should do when you're stuck like that.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah, no, I think that as cliche as any of those sound, like just resetting or, you know, taking the dogs out or getting fresh air, like that stuff actually helps.
For sure.
And in a career path like architecture or content creation, like you have that underlying pressure of like, I always need to be creative. I continually need to have good new ideas. And whether that be the case or not, like you'll feel that way. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's such a thing that nowadays, like with social media, it is flushed. There's so much out there that it's like, how could I possibly come up with something new, something different, something unique, and on a regular basis?
Yeah,
I think that's like something we struggled with too, starting SKP. You know, like we still struggle. We still struggle with it.
You're going to.
Yeah, it's a common thing, I think, to struggle with it. But I remember sitting down and we were like, okay, what can we do different? What is not done yet?
Yeah.
You know, and it was like kind of, I wouldn't say it was like putting us down, but like in a sense it was, because we were like so hyped about starting this and like everything, and you know, and then we're like, freak, well, if we can't come up with something, like is it going to be worth it? You know, like anything like that.
You're in the honeymoon phase to begin
for sure.
with.
Yeah.
Right?
You're stoked.
You're all about the other person. You know? That's natural, I think. You know, it's not anything new.
Yeah, and I mean, if anybody's watching this, like the way that we kind of, at least the way that I look at it, that we came out of that funk was, so what if we do something, the same thing that other people are doing?
Very true.
Because we are our own individual and we are our own person, it's going to be different.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm doing it. Mm-hmm. Whether that's architecture, you know, making videos, whatever it is, I'm going to have my own unique spin on things, and that's different.
Yeah.
So
no, I'd fully agree with that. It's like, as you just said, you are your own person. No one else in the world is exactly like you. Your interests are maybe similar to other people's, but the way you go about expressing your interest in said thing is different.
Yeah.
And you see that all the time in architecture with presentations and stuff. It's like you could have two people, you could like contract two people to do the exact same presentation board or same presentation altogether, but I guarantee you that each one of them will do it differently in some way or another.
Yeah.
And you know, a certain diagram will look different on this one versus that one, or you know, even though they're meant to be the exact same thing. So no, I fully agree. And people come for your personality. People want to watch these podcasts or listen to these podcasts while they're at work or on their drive to work or wherever because of your personality.
Your personality, they feel like they can relate with you, you know.
Sure.
Yeah. So, and that's huge. So
clip the Instagram reel.
I
see it already. Whatever you said. Like,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh man, timestamp.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah. But I think Keaton was like, I you know, in preparation for this, like I was watching the video that you guys put out today, Saturday. Yeah, episode 5.
Episode 5.
The rebranding thing, and I think Keaton hit the nail on the head when he said that, you know, like story is huge. Mm-hmm. Story is like the biggest thing, especially with all the content that is being put out these days. It's you want to be different. It's like no one's going to follow your exact schedule every single day.
Exactly.
And so vlogging that or podcasting or whatever, talking about different topics, people are going to want to see, you know, your schedule throughout the day and like kind of what you go through to see if they can relate to said schedule.
Yeah.
And I think story like comes down to the whole thing. Like even coming up here, you know, you put GoPro on the truck and, you know, doing all this stuff. It's like they want to see from a spectator standpoint. And I even asked my wife the same thing. It's like, what do you think would be helpful? It's like they want to see the story. They want to see like what you're doing, like how you got here and like what we're doing here. And like, you know, I think that's so vital to success is the story thing, and Casey talks about it all the time too.
I was just gonna bring up, and I know I bring this up. I bring him up every vlog or every podcast, I swear. So I apologize.
But dude, that's like one of the things that we're talking about. That's where you get inspiration.
Yeah,
that's where you get motivation.
That's
awesome.
what, like, sometimes, you know, when I'm having a hard, you know, that's another thing I do other than stepping away is I'll like go watch one of his vlogs or something like from years ago, and just the fact that he's, you know, can do this 800 something plus episodes, you know, every day,
And produce a new story every time.
It's a new story. It's something new every time. I mean, mind you, he lives in New York, and he's got like basically I don't know what you want to call it, like.
He's got the content there.
He's got the content there. It's it's much different, more difficult than like being here in Utah, But it's something I look for that uniqueness that he brings, and he's definitely got his style. He's got his personality and things throughout every episode. But every episode is different in the fact that something else happens. It's different. It's unique, and that's what I look for. That's
I like you brought up like when you get in a lull and it's like you feel like, how can I keep going? How can I keep creating and do I even want to?
Yeah.
And I think if we're on this mission and I think we are with SKPs, like we do want to grow. We want to see
for sure
an impact on the people and at least try to help people and try to provide our services the best we can.
Yeah.
I saw this tweet. That's why I was pulling out my phone. Sorry, guys. I saw this tweet from Alex Ramosi, and it was he said, "It's hard to beat a person who keeps showing up every day. Yeah. It shifts from winning to outlasting, a very different game." So it's like, even if you're not feeling creative that day, like this is how I interpret that, right? It's like, even if you're not feeling creative that day or you're in a lull, like show up the next day.
Yeah.
Just take it one day at a time, one step at a time, whether it's social media, one post at a time, right? Like you don't need to plan out the next year if you don't have it right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
no, that's super true. It's kind of like a never quit type of mentality.
Yeah.
And Keaton's going to laugh when I say this, but it's like the Navy SEALs bring this into their training. Like,
100%.
And this is why they're the most like respected and feared community.
Yeah.
Because and special operators and whatnot, not just Navy SEALs but special operators. It's like never quit. Like keep doing what you're doing, regardless of what everybody else thinks. Like just keep doing it.
Yeah.
Eventually someone's going to see it, someone's going to like it, someone's going to relate to it, and sky's the limit from there. But just that never quit mentality. It's like
for them to like be pushed to quit is extreme. And so the fact that if they don't, they've obviously found something and they like are probably enjoying it, and they know that this is what they should be doing.
They have a purpose for sure.
There's a purpose for sure. And so like I don't know, just if they can do it, like
there's a reason you're doing what you're doing, right? There's a reason that we're out here at, there's a reason why we woke up at 5 a.m. today to get up here and do this,
7:30 in the morning now.
Because you guys are obviously passionate about the videography and creating a business out of this. And, for me, it's like I'm obviously passionate about architecture. Even though I've thought about quitting thousands of times, I've complained to my wife about it multiple times.
Me too. With my schooling too, it's the same.
It's like there's days you come home, it's just like screw this, like this is not worth it.
Yeah.
But that never quit mentality is like
just
getting out of that lull. Is.
I was telling Keaton last night because we got some feedback on some of our social media and stuff like that, and it was good. Like it was good feedback, but it can be hard to take feedback sometimes, especially if it's like, hey, maybe you try something different like this, or like I'm not getting this out of whatever it is, right? And I think it both kind of hit us as like, because we're new, we haven't had a ton of feedback yet, so you get that first feedback, and it's like
the legit,
like that. People think it's trash.
Yeah.
That was the first thought in my head. I was like, wow, what an asshole! Like, like that sucks, right?
Yeah.
Or why would we even continue, right? But then, I was talking to you, and it was just like. It was like, and we had I posted a short yesterday, got 1 like and 1 dislike. I was like, really? A dislike on a 50 view video?
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Yeah.
But it's like at that same time, it's like, all right, if I got that 1 like and 100,000 dislikes, that 1 like is worth it.
Yeah.
Just to make that impact, like somebody liked that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even if maybe it was my wife. I don't know.
Hey,
might have been me. I don't know. I liked a bunch of stuff last night too. I don't know.
Yeah.
And no, you're right. But that feedback is so vital.
Yeah.
You know?
Without it, I don't feel like we could really, grow or change. You need it to be able to adapt you want to put out what people like. You also want to put out what you like to do.
Well,
so
it's
you
nice,
need to just,
not to cut you off, but it's nice to see that feedback from other people too, because this whole rebranding thing from episode 5 that we were talking about was feedback from ourselves.
Yeah.
Is how we looked at our business, how we looked at where we were. And now we get to see like, okay, these other people are coming to us and they feel the responsibility to tell us like, hey, here's some constructive criticism. Like that's a new perspective. And I think that's helpful.
Right.
Yeah.
You get that all the time in architecture school too. People think of architecture school and they think of like, oh yeah, kids. Well, I don't know if the general public does, but people that are in going into architecture school, they think like, the jury just ripping you apart when you do a presentation, or disliking, criticizing every single thing that you did wrong, and people leaving crying because of it.
Oh, jeez.
It's pretty intense, and I've seen that a couple times. But
well, it's tough to take criticism.
Yeah,
it really can be, especially if you're not used to it.
100%.
That's like how it was last night. Like that's why I called you and I was like, dude, this is kind of hit me. Like what this dude said.
Yeah.
Because we hadn't had that before. We hadn't had where someone is like, hey, I don't know what your channel's about. What maybe and they just criticized it and they gave me feedback and stuff, and it was hard to take that for sure. But like in the moment, yes, I was like kind of pissed off, and I was like, why do people need to say this? Like just speak for yourself, whatever. Keep it to yourself, whatever. But now, like just a day later, less than 24 hours later, I'm like, I'm so glad he said that. Yeah. I'm so glad that like we can grow off of that and like figure out what to do next and what to do better, and so it's definitely a needed thing.
Yeah, I think it was from Nick Bear too. I watch a lot of his podcasts, but he was talking about like,
not a sponsor though, right?
Shameless
plug.
Right.
Shameless plug.
Shameless plug.
No, dude, honestly, he's been a big motivator for me too in business and life and that sort of stuff. So like, if you're struggling with that stuff, like go check him out. But anyway, he was talking about that same sort of thing of like having somebody say no to you, or like getting that shoved back in your face, and he was like, you have to practice it. And I think he heard it from someone else, don't quote me on this, but he was like go to Starbucks or wherever you get your coffee, because screw Starbucks, it's trash coffee. So if you're in Utah, go to Beanie's, right?
Go to Beanie's.
But he's like, go to wherever you get your coffee, whatever it is, right? Doesn't have to be coffee, it could be soda. We're in Utah, right? And he's like, when you get to the window, ask for a 10% discount. Just say, hey, can I get 10% off? Chances are they'll say no. You just live with that and move on. And you just kind of take reps at getting no said to you, and that helps when those bigger pushes come back.
Yeah. Different type of criticism,
but same concept, right?
I'm going to do that next time we're at a drive-thru.
Hey, can we get 10% off today?
Before our meetings.
Yeah. Well, it sucks, though, because we go to Black Rifle and we already get the veteran discount. So it's like, hey, can I get another? No.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think it's just because, like, they're going to say no. But it's like, why not ask? Because if they say it, what's the hurt, right? If they say yes, like, cool, we got 10% off. If they say no, there's a rep. Like, we're getting better at taking no.
That's true.
That's actually pretty genius.
Dang.
I'm going to start doing that.
Right?
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
No, it's like failure builds, was it failure builds success or something like that?
Yeah, I've heard that, I think.
Don't know who said it, but
Did you just make that up?
Alex Proctor said here on the SKP podcast.
Yeah. No, failure is so vital to that, and I really like the flow of this conversation, because it's like it's flowing very well into this topic, because like I was watching the Last Dance with Michael Jordan, and how many knocks, like the guy didn't make his high school basketball team,
right?
Yeah.
And now he's the greatest basketball player to, arguably the best basketball player to ever live.
Probably is.
Yeah, and he talks about failure the entire time and how that drove his competition, like his competitive nature.
Yeah.
And that was it's like that's motivating in and of itself, but like the success that he's made just because of that mindset is incredible.
Yeah, I mean, if you're winning at everything from the get-go, like I've been watching that a lot, like since having kids. It's like trying to get your kids to be successful and to like, so it's like if I want my kids to be healthy and fit and like have a strong mindset and think for themselves, like I want to promote that, but I also want them to promote it for themselves. So it's like you talk about, I'll use like youth athletes as an example. It's like you talk about training really young kids from a really young age, and it's a day in, day out grind. Like you train them almost like you train like a college or professional athlete, right? They're going to burn out. Yeah. They're going to hit that point of exhaustion that they either feel like they're good enough and they're so good that they like don't need to practice, don't need to do it, those kids. And that too is with people with natural abilities. I feel like they feel that, and I can't speak for everybody, but there are people with natural abilities who I feel like lose their potential because they think that like they're naturally headed on the right path, instead of like the people who fail, get pushed in the dirt, and have to pick themselves up, have to work harder. Right. Yeah. And those people, I think, that grind and have to work harder and deal with failure and loss and all that, I think they grow way more than the people who think like, oh, I'm naturally gifted, I got it in the bag. Yeah. I don't know.
It's someone who's like just had constant success and like no failures or anything. Yeah. Hasn't experienced that. Yeah. That's that failure and that feeling. Or even like just one step backward, like they are just constantly on the climb up and up, success. They don't.
Dude, they hit that first failure, they're done for.
They're the same person they were 10 years ago. Yeah. If they're just, they're not changing.
Or with a microscopic amount of success or something.
Yeah, they're not changing at all. Like it
doesn't even have to be success necessarily. It's just like if you haven't experienced failure. Yeah. Like you're just like kind of floating through life and you haven't experienced like getting knocked down, not physically necessarily, but like mentally or emotionally or whatever it is. Yeah. Like that builds you up, that gives you that drive. Like I remember when we started SKP, we started it, I was super into it and all this, and then finances and stuff started getting a little difficult because it was kind of in between jobs, and I called you and I was like, dude, I'm struggling a little bit. Yeah. Like, to be honest with you, I'm struggling a little bit. Yeah. Like, I really want to get this off the ground. Like, I want to meet tomorrow. Let's get on it. Let's do it. And it was like I needed that kind of push, that kind of like, holy crap. Like, I need to start making moves, right? Yeah. That, I think that really pushed us in the right direction.
For sure.
Yeah.
And so.
I had a not a personal experience, but my mentor told me about this experience with going back to kind of like the success talk that we were just talking about, and the failure and things like that. Yeah, so my mentor, when he was in school, he said his school was very competitive. He went to the University of Arizona, and he had a girl that was very well. Her parents were very well renowned, and she was very. I don't want to say, I mean, she was obviously respected, but it's like because her parents were so like, heart surgeons and very known, she was also kind of grouped into that family respect pool. And so she was naturally just very involved with that. So, and everybody knew her. So, but the thing is she was a terrible architect. Like she was a terrible...
It's the spot to be for mountain biking.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, here comes everybody.
Yeah, right. Morning.
She was she was not a very good architect, according to my mentor. So this is opinion, this is bias, but whatever.
Right.
He said that in one of their reviews with the jury in front of him. This is when juries were very, very strict and very rough and made people cry and all that stuff.
Sounds rough. Sounds hard.
Mind you, they're 20-year-old kids, so it's like making a 20-year-old girl cry is not very nice. But she went to go present her project, and she pulled off the veil or whatever that she had covering her project, her model, and it was literally just like a globe. It was a globe that had like, I think it was just colored weirdly. And one of the jury members immediately, and she presented it and whatnot, and one of the jury members stood up and just immediately just started clapping.
Sarcastically or like?
No, like, according to my mentor, it was just like, just like a strong clap.
Awesome.
And he walks up to her and he's like, "This is what we're looking for."
Wow.
And we're just like, my mentor was just like, it's a globe. Like there's nothing there. Like, what is that? And it had nothing to do with the project, really. It wasn't relatable. So getting to my point is there's the people that are grouped into a level of success, like a family of success, right? And they're naturally assumed to be inherently good at that thing.
Right.
Right. So the point that I'm trying to make is that those people are grouped into that and into that thing, and they're just because they're a part of that does not mean that they're good at it.
Right.
And so it's kind of getting back to that point of climbing the mountain and things. It's like the people that fight for what they're doing or fight for their passion are going to naturally have more over time, not right away, are naturally going to have more are going to find more success in my opinion. And versus these people that just show up and present a globe. That are just inherently that way.
It reminds me of like The Office, you know, when Michael starts the Michael Scott Paper Company, and he goes to his Nana for the loan, and he's like, she's all, "What's your mission statement? How are you gonna beat out these big companies?" He's like, "Well, we're gonna want it more," right? And it is. It's like, I look at that and I'm like, okay, it's a joke, right? It's in a TV show, it's a joke. Like,
it's true though.
We're gonna want it, but it's so true. Like, you have to want it more.
Yeah.
You have to have that drive, that purpose, that reason that keeps you going and keeps you thriving. You know, you have to have that purpose that like wakes you up in the morning and wakes you up at 1 a.m. and you're like, I need to go do this now. I need to go hop on this. And like that sort of passion drives a person, and that sort of like engagement with whatever you're doing, your creative process, whatever it is, like that brings you to success.
You're gonna want it more.
And if you don't have that purpose, if you are just this lull of a blob floating through life, like that can be so difficult.
Yeah.
And you're not like, I mean, some people do, some people like naturally find success, but like far and few between that, like, it's tough.
Yeah, and that if you have that passion to begin with, like it's clear that you guys do, that you know you want it bad enough, then you're gonna find success eventually. You know, it'll be there, and you're gonna beat out that competition because of how much work you put in. It's like a practice makes perfect thing.
Yeah.
So, I fully agree with that wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Well.
Anyway.
That was kind of a good conversation.
That was great. Honestly, I really appreciate you coming on. Like having that third perspective, I think was super beneficial.
Yeah.
And it's so nice to kind of like creativity is such a hard thing. So getting more perspectives on that, like I know Keaton's perspective. He kind of knows my perspective, or I think I know. You know, but I think you know mine. Like we know each other's kind of on the same page with what we want. But having that third person, so we really appreciate you coming on and talking with us. So
yeah, of course.
Thanks for waking up at 5 a.m. to come up here with us.
It was great. It was a good conversation.
Yeah,
I would say if anyone, you know, down below, comment like if you guys struggle with creativity or anything like that, like let us know. Like what gets you like back on that creative grind? What, you know, motivates you? What inspires you to get out of that lull? That, you know, things like that. You know, let us know. So.
Yeah, and if you've made it this far in the video, like, please subscribe.
Oh, yeah.
We've got more content. It's only getting better from here, so.
Might as well. I mean, it's what, like 30-something
I
minutes, 30, 40 minutes? Like, you might as well subscribe. Like, come on.
Yeah, if you made it this far, you might as well push the button. You know?
Anyway, all right. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate you guys. Please follow, like, subscribe. Check out our Instagram. We're really working hard to grow, and we'll see you next time.